Ruling coalition meets to delve into the share of seats from National Assembly elections slated for January 11. Alliance to work together, cornering opposition CPNU-ML. All-party meeting held to discuss on formation of a probe committee to investigate yesterday's clash in Sarlai, which resulted in the death of an individual. Alaska Airlines to temporarily ground its fleet of 65 Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft after a cabin panel blowout forced a jetliner to make an emergency landing. And fourth World Cup winner for Brazil as either player or coach, Mario Gonzalo passes away at the age of 92. The ruling coalition is holding a meeting to delve into the share of seats from the National Assembly elections slated for January 11. Of the 20 seats going vacant at the National Assembly, the election is to fill in 19 of them. The ruling coalition had previously agreed to contest the election by forming alliance. Despite the coalition including 7 political parties, the alliance for the National Assembly election will only include 4 of them. Among the 4 parties, Nepali Congress has claimed 10 seats and CPN Maoist Center 7, while CPN Unified Socialist and Janata Samajwadi Party have claimed 3 seats each. Maoist Center Secretary Devendra Paudel had stated that the share would be finalized on the basis of the claims. Previously, preparations were being made to allocate 9 seats for Congress, 6 for Maoist Center and 2 each for Unified Socialist and Janata Samajwadi Party. A meeting of the alliance leaders held earlier this morning had concluded that an agreement could not be reached with main opposition CPNU-ML and had decided to work inside the ruling coalition. It has been understood that opposition CPNU-ML had claimed 6 seats. Nepali Congress and Maoist Center of the ruling coalition had appeared positive to provide 6 seats to UML on the condition that the opposition would assist in endorsement of bill related to transitional justice from the parliament. However, with disagreement of other parties in the alliance, the ruling alliance is to share the seats among the parties in the coalition only. An all-party meeting has been held regarding formation of an investigation committee to probe into the incident that took place in Varathawa of Sarlai yesterday. An all-party discussion has taken place for formation of a committee to investigate yesterday's incident where a person had died after being shot during a clash which had erupted following disagreement related to municipal hospital. Prior to this, the local administration had lifted the curfew imposed yesterday and had announced restrictive measures. Chief District Officer Komal Prasad Thamala had imposed a curfew from yesterday evening until 8 in the morning after a person had died in the clash related to Varathawa Municipal Hospital. Issuing another notice this morning, the District Administration Office had imposed restrictive measures in effect until 9 a.m. tomorrow. CDO Thamala has said that any kind of assembly or political programs have been prohibited. Actions are to be taken against those violating the prohibitory order. 27-year-old Jayashankar Shah of Varathawa Municipality 6 had died after being shot during the clash yesterday. Police have detained 9 individuals, including Dr. Govinda Kesi from the capital's Maitigar, for staging protest in the prohibited area. Police have arrested the demonstrators, including Dr. Kesi, who were staging protest at Maitigar, demanding justice, health services and equal access to education for the victims of the insurgency era. The protesters demanded to ensure the right envisioned by the Constitution to stage demonstrations on issues of public concerns at public places. There are around 27,000 inmates in 74 prisons across the country, most of whom are under the age of 30 years. Another such facility for those guilty of crime are juvenile correction homes. Minors who are under the age of 18 convicted of crime are sent to correctional facilities. Of the 9 such centers of the country, frequent clashes have erupted in some of them in the past few months. Juveniles held at the facility in Nobasta of Bake did not just clash among each other, they also resorted to vandalism. This is not the first of such incidents at juvenile correctional facility. Similar situation was previously reported in Bhaktapur, Parsa and Bake, where a few juveniles had escaped as well. The nature of crime with the involvement of those under the age of 18 draws public interest. Of the 99 juveniles who had resorted to vandalism in Nobasta on Monday, 49 were found guilty of rape. A total of 1,125 juveniles are currently being held at the 9 juvenile correctional facilities across the country, with the highest number of 228 at Bhaktapur. Of the total juveniles in Bhaktapur, 127 were found guilty of rape. Meanwhile, of the total 1,125 juveniles across the country, 614 were also arrested for rape. Government data shows that others were involved in drug abuse, murder and theft, among other acts of crime. These juveniles are so violent now that they have begun creating difficulties for the officials and the security personnel. The challenge also stems from the fact that the facilities with the capacity of 558 juveniles are holding 1,125. Problems are also caused because of inadequate physical infrastructures and facilities for the development of the juveniles. Based on the existing legal provisions, security departments cannot use force on the juveniles. Another arrangement provision shifting those who cross 18 years in age to separate facilities. However, several complications exist in addressing these issues. It has already been late to formulate strategic solutions to ensure that the juveniles, once released, do not get involved in criminal activities again. Because of the failure in integrating forests with environment tourism, stakeholders have said that most community forests of Nepal have been dependent on the sale of wood to generate revenue for managerial expenses. At the 26th General Assembly of the Community Forest in Simara of Bara, participants identified the need for integrating forests with tourism. Of late, tourists have been preferring the natural environment of the forest areas. Therefore, there are adequate possibilities of tourism in community forests. The participants also identified the possibilities of generating adequate revenue by prioritizing tourism in community forests. It is now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
The question is, what is your take on the controversy regarding Indian support to Nepal? Your options are A, fear of interference, B, result of poor diplomacy, and C, an excuse to protest. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. The highest number of Indian tourists visited Lumbini in the year 2023. While 230,863 Indian nationals had visited Lumbini in 2022, the number rose to 296,510 in 2023. Before the coronavirus pandemic, around 200,000 Indian tourists used to visit Lumbini each year. Meanwhile, the number of domestic and tourists from other nations has declined after the coronavirus. A total of 174,015 tourists from 115 countries had visited Lumbini in 2019, while 76,210 foreigners from 85 countries reached the site in 2023. According to the Lumbini Development Trust, a total of 656,218 domestic tourists reached Lumbini last year. Time now for the international news. Alaska Airlines will temporarily ground its fleet of 65 Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft after a cabin panel blowout forced a jetliner loaded with passengers to make an emergency landing. Today, CEO Ben Minicucci has said. Minicucci said in a statement that the aircraft will be returned to service only after maintenance and safety inspections, which he expected to be completed in the next few days. He described the move as a precautionary step. Alaska Airlines Flight 1282, which had been bound for Ontario, California, suffered the incident soon after departing and landed safely back at Portland, Oregon, with 171 passengers and 6 crew on board, according to the airline and Flight Radar 24 data. The National Transportation Safety Board said it was investigating the depressurization incident. The Federal Aviation Administration also said the crew had reported a pressurization issue and that it would be investigated. Quoting Under Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs Martin Griffiths, a United Nations spokesperson, said the humanitarian community in Gaza has been left with the impossible mission of supporting more than 2 million people. Stephanie Tremblay, associate spokesperson for the Secretary General of the United Nations, said supplies vital to survival of people in Gaza are almost non-existent. The UN and its partners continue to do all they can to meet the massive needs in Gaza. However, the current response is only meeting a fraction of people's needs. On the food security front, humanitarian workers continue to try their best to support people in Gaza, but they are constrained by security risks and mobility constraints, according to Tremblay. As the conflict has dragged on for almost 3 months, the overburdened health system constitutes another vital aspect of humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. According to the World Health Organization, the war in Gaza has caused over 22,600 deaths and close to 58,000 injuries. Tragically, many children, men and women have had limbs amputated. Many injured people were hindered from timely treatment, reducing the possibility of saving their limbs. The lack of treatment options and experts means limbs are being removed, sometimes without anesthetics and pain medications. Amputees require early physiotherapy and rehabilitation and proper nursing care, along with optimal nutrition and mental health support, essential services that are currently unavailable. Officials in Bangladesh have made final preparations today, the eve of a general election in which incumbent Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is set to win a 4th straight 5-year term. Ballot boxes and papers sealed inside sacks were distributed to polling centers in capital Dhaka and across the country ahead of the January 7 election, which the South Asian nation's main opposition party is boycotting. Nearly 2,000 candidates overall are vying for the 300 directly elected parliament seats, but main opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party BNP is sitting it out after Hasina refused to resign to make way for a caretaker government to run the poll. Hundreds of independents are also running in the January 7 election, an unusually high number which the opposition says is part of a ruling party ploy to legitimize a vote seen by critics as a one-sided sham. The death toll has risen to 110 in the central Japanese prefecture of Ishikawa after an earthquake of up to 7.6 magnitude struck the prefecture and its vicinity amid fears of escalating casualties despite intensified rescue and search efforts. A total of 211 people were reported missing in Ishikawa as of today. Although the critical first 72 hours crucial for rescue operations have passed, search and rescue efforts remain underway in multiple areas of Ishikawa despite harsh challenges of road closures and adverse weather conditions. The road inaccessibility has made it difficult for large transport machines to reach the disaster areas, further complicating the relief efforts. To the worst, rainy weather expected today may trigger mudslides and landslides in the affected areas. Moreover, with no improvement in traffic disruptions, relief supplies cannot be delivered timely to disaster-stricken region, aggravating the scarcity of food, water and fuel in the hardest hit areas, deepening grief and anguish for local residents. A series of stronger earthquakes with a major one measuring 7.6 magnitude struck at a shallow depth in the Noto region of Ishikawa on Monday. Centered around 30 kilometers east-northeast of Wazima, the most coastal city, the devastating quake registered a maximum intensity of 7. Leading weapons experts said that missile remnants found in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv appear to be from North Korea. The conclusions came a day after the United States and Russia had fired North Korean short-range ballistic missiles at Ukraine in what Washington called a significant and concerning escalation in arms cooperation between the two countries. Ukraine also said yesterday that Russia had struck Ukraine with missiles from North Korea for the first time. It did not provide evidence. Dutch researcher and expert on North Korea's military, Joost Olimans, examined footage of debris after a missile strike was filmed in Kharkiv on January 2. US-based weapons expert Jeffrey Lewis at Middlebury College concurred, citing details such as the signature configuration of the missile's connecting bolts. North Korea has been under a United Nations arms embargo since it first tested a nuclear bomb in the year 2006. UN Security Council resolutions approved with Russian support ban countries from trading weapons or other military equipment with North Korea. Both Moscow and Pyongyang have previously denied conducting any arms deals, but vowed last year to deepen their military relations. The head of Kharkiv's regional state administration, Oleh Shenyavov, said that the markings had been erased from the missiles, but that they had not been produced in Russia. North Korea staged a mass rally yesterday in Pyongyang and vowed to carry out policy decisions made at a recent Workers' Party of Korea (WPK) plenary meeting. In a video provided by the North's official news agency KCNA, thousands of Pyongyang citizens and workers were seen marching and listening to official speeches during the rally at May Day Stadium. During the party meeting in last December, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ordered his country's military, munitions industry and nuclear weapons sector to accelerate war preparations to counter what he called unprecedented confrontational moves by the US. Kim also laid out economic goals for the new year, calling it a decisive year to accomplish the country's 5-year development plan. The North has suffered serious food shortages in recent decades, including famine in the 1990s, often as a result of natural disasters. And before we wrap up, here's a look into the top stories one more time. Ruling coalition meets to delve into the share of seats from National Assembly elections slated for January 11. Alliance to work together, cornering opposition CP and UML. All-party meeting held to discuss on formation of approved committee to investigate yesterday's clash in Sarlai, which resulted in the death of an individual. Alaska Airlines to temporarily ground its fleet of 65 Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft after a cabin panel blowout forced the jetliner to make an emergency landing. And former World Cup winner for Brazil as either player or coach, Mario Zagallo passes away at the age of 92. That is all for the moment. Our next English bulletin is at 10:30 p.m. Thank you for staying with us. Goodbye for now.